A very good morning. You're watching News9 with me, Akshata. The shocking details have emerged on the Gulbarga shootout. The much-awaited CID probe report revealed that Mallikarjun Bande was shot dead with a police service revolver. The service revolver belonged to Police Sub-Inspector Murli. The revolver had fallen down during the encounter and was picked up by rowdy sheeter Munna. The rowdy sheeter then used the same weapon to target Bande. The bullet is said to have gone through Bande's head and got lodged in the choke of the tube light. That is how the CID found the bullet and realized that this was the same bullet that had killed Bande. They then conducted a round of investigations and found out that it belonged to a revolver. And later, narrowing it down, it has been revealed that this particular bullet came from the police service revolver of PSI Murli. It is said that a lack of planning is what the CID has pinned it down upon, stating that there was absolutely no coordination between PSI Mallikarjun Bande and the then IGP Wazir Ahmed. Also going on to make it very clear that it was a lack of simple planning that led to so much chaos during that encounter, and that is when PSI Murli dropped his weapon and Munna immediately picked it up and shot at Bande. So, of course, there was a lot of talk on whether, in fact, this was a staged encounter, whether there was a conspiracy at hand. Now, with these revelations being made by the CID report, those questions still remain at large. In fact, it has gained momentum, considering that it has been discovered that a police weapon was used to fire the bullet that killed Mallikarjun Bande. Once again, raising the question, was the shootout staged? Was it all a conspiracy to kill PSI Mallikarjun Bande? His wife, remember, also went on to allege that it was the then IGP Wazir Ahmed who was responsible and said that they had several tiffs. Remember, the IGP had picked severe criticism for, in fact, giving the order that no one will go ahead and fire back at Munna, and also considering that none of them had bulletproof vests. This directly and automatically put all the police officials' lives at risk. And of course, several fingers were pointed at Wazir Ahmed, claiming that he was responsible for the death of Bande. Maybe staged, maybe not. He was still responsible, is what several people said. He then went ahead and stepped down. But even now, we are looking at the CID report throwing more light into what took place, and once again raising questions on whether the Gulbarga shootout was merely staged by cops themselves to end Mallikarjun Bande's life. Well, the CID was called in after there were several questions raised about the impartial probe started by the cops. Several people had called for the CBI to get involved, but the CID has gone ahead and filed its probe report, only raising more questions than giving answers, and this could lead to the CBI now interjecting in the matter and going ahead and once and for all putting an end to this particular issue. But of course, as of now, we are looking at startling details coming out there, and several people will go ahead and state that the suspicions of the cops being involved has only been further intrigued by this particular report, which quite clearly states that Mallikarjun Bande was killed using a police service revolver. But also, of course, it goes on to state that it was the rowdy sheeter Munna who shot at him. And of course, the cops now will be in a spot of bother. More than anything else, it is very, very evident that it was a case of lack of planning, lack of coordination, and a lack of communication between every official present there, which led to PSI Murli losing his weapon, it landing in the hands of the rowdy sheeter Munna, who went on to fire a bullet right at Mallikarjun Bande. It hit him in the head and then got lodged in the choke of the tube light, and the CID officials found that particular bullet, and that is how they went on to conclude that yes, this particular bullet was fired from a police revolver. But while the CID has gone on to confirm that it was the rowdy sheeter Munna who fired that particular bullet, the fact that a police revolver is involved will only definitely raise a lot more eyebrows on whether in fact it was just a lack of preparation, or whether the entire thing was completely planned to the hilt to ensure the death of Mallikarjun Bande. Well, of course, this particular case created quite a sensation across the state, to say in the least. Mallikarjun Bande was hailed as a local hero in the region, a much-loved man, and with his death, several people were angered and protests broke out across the state, especially in Gulbarga. Soon after, we saw the IGP Wazir Ahmed going ahead and stepping down, considering the immense pressure that was coming his way. And of course, we are looking at even Mallikarjun Bande's wife going ahead and stating that Wazir Ahmed was responsible for what took place. Well, we've got a retired DCP, Mr. Mullah, now joining us over the phone lines. Mr. Mullah, first of all, your reaction to the CID probe report?
Yeah, I've been told that the report is being submitted.
Right, Mr. Mullah, but your reaction to the same?
Yeah, well, I'm told that it is revealed that the bullet which has killed the inspector is from a police revolver, right?
That's right.
Yeah. This is possible because there was another officer who was there, the PSI, who had accidentally dropped his gun there, and perhaps the rowdy Munna has taken that gun and used it against the officer.
Right. Mr. Mullah, obviously with these details coming out, a lot of people had gone ahead and pointed fingers at the police officials. Do you think it was a mere lack of planning, or do you think there's a lot more to the story?
Yeah, this is planning. No encounter is done with a planning. This happens instantly when a police officer back is against the wall. He has to take recourse to save his life. That's how it has happened. So there was no planning. In no encounter there is planning. We don't go to kill people with a plan. It happens in self-defense. So it is possible that in a hurry or in the melee, the revolver could have been dropped and that could have been used.
Right, Mr. Mullah. Now, we have seen encounters, of course, take place in the past. We have seen deaths on both sides take place as well. But with the CID report, the CID itself has clearly observed that there was a clear lack of communication between the officials, and that could have possibly led to this particular incident where Mr. Bande was shot dead. But also, to a great extent, questions are being raised on whether it was completely staged, because now we're looking at a police revolver actually being used.
Well, I for one believe, and I am very sure, because I also was a part of a kind of encounter, but definitely no encounter takes place with a plan of killing some people. Maybe possible there is lack of some communication somewhere, but definitely it all happens instantly. So plan doesn't exist there.
Right.
Only, at times when more than one officers are there, we shout to communicate with each other to give a cover and all at such a time.
Right, Mr. Mullah. Also, of course, another issue that has, in fact, picked several people is that the then IGP, Wazir Ahmed, had made it very clear that every single official there would not fire, would in fact restrict their fire to ensure that an encounter would not take place. But at the same time, the officials were not wearing bulletproof vests, which clearly ensured that they were putting their lives in danger out there. Once again, of course, adding fuel to fire, adding fuel to those particular talk that maybe the shootout was staged.
No. I never believe that shooting is ever staged. It happens, all that happens in self-defense. No police officer, police are not that brutal to go on killing people. They always do it in self-defense, and chests are not always carried by, bulletproof chests are not always carried by civilian police. That is the job of the police or, CRPF or armed police who carry it, because they always fail riot. Here, civilian police are very civil. Their job is only at times when there is a situation when it comes to their life, they stage in self-defense they shoot, and the persons die. Here perhaps it all has happened suddenly, and the officer must have dropped a revolver, as CID report says.
Right, Mr. Mullah, more than anything else, do you think that this case strongly highlights the need for better training for police officials to be prepared for such a case in the case of an encounter more than anything else?
Well, encounter as a part of training is not fair enough, because training for an officer for an encounter. Well, training, it can be part of training that in such situations how one should behave. That may be any kind of training is important.
Right, Mr. Mullah, thank you so much for talking to News9, sharing your views with us with regard to what you thought about that CID probe report. But of course, it has raised a lot of questions more than giving answers, considering, of course, that it has concluded that the revolver used to kill Mallikarjun Pandey was a police service revolver. But of course, the CID has also pointed out that it was Munna who fired the bullet that killed Pandey, stating quite clearly that in the melee that ensued, in all that chaos, one of the PSI Murli, is said to have dropped his revolver, and Munna picked it up and shot at Pandey. This is what the CID report has concluded.